hours to get their books, their backpacks, and any other items left after gunfire erupted last Thursday.
I didn't actually see anything. I did hear the gunshots because I was outside, but I got out of there really fast and dropped everything. So I guess it's just nice to have my stuff back and to see other people there who were there with me.
Investigators still don't know why 16-year-old Nathaniel Burhow opened fire on campus and then shot himself. 2 students were killed. 3 students who were injured have all been released from the hospital.
The Marine Corps could lose its cases against 13 Marines accused of crimes linked to a human smuggling and drug investigation. This comes after a military judge ruled it was illegal to make those arrests, which were videotaped during a morning battalion formation while leaders called them, quote, a cancer and bad Marines. The judge gave prosecutors at Camp Pendleton until November 25th to offer a way to fix that situation.
My act of expressing concern to the chain of command in an official and private channel would surely cost me my life.
A decorated combat veteran calls President Trump's request inappropriate.
Today, we heard from 2 witnesses who expressed concern about that favor back in July. But as ABC's Mona Kassar-Abdi explains, Republicans are backing the president's account that he did nothing wrong.
If you would both please rise.
2 top national security officials testifying before Congress, sharing their accounts of the July 25th phone call between President Trump and Ukraine's president.
It involved discussion of what appeared to be a domestic political matter.
Jennifer Williams, an aide to Vice President Pence, described the call as, quote, unusual. But Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman took it further, deeming President Trump's request for a political favor, quote, inappropriate.
It is improper for the President of the United States to demand a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen and a political opponent.
The decorated combat veteran whose family fled the former Soviet Union 40 years ago, telling Congress he reported the conduct not once but twice.
In Russia, my act of expressing concern to the chain of command in an official and private channel would surely cost me my life.
Republican Congressman Jim Jordan then pressed Vindman on why his former boss, Tim Morrison, in his closed-door deposition testified that he was concerned about Vindman's judgment.
We had only recently started working together. Maybe it was a different cultures, military culture.
Hours later, it was Morrison in the witness chair alongside Kurt Volker, the former U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, at the request of Republicans on the panel. Morrison, who also listened in on the call, testified that he did not find the president's actions illegal.
I feared at the time of the call on July 25th how its disclosure would play in Washington's political climate. My fears have been realized.
Meanwhile, Volker remains adamant that he was in the dark about the true intentions of the Ukraine investigations, despite previous testimony that connects him to key events.
But the accusation that Vice President Biden acted inappropriately did not seem at all credible to me.
And although Ambassador Volker worked hand-in-hand with EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland to push Ukraine to investigate Burisma, Volker told lawmakers that it was only in hindsight that he made the connection to former Vice President Joe Biden. Mona Kassar-Abdi, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
And today's public testimony includes a former top donor to the president's inaugural committee and a deputy assistant secretary at the Defense Department. That begins at 6 in the morning. You can also watch 10 News this morning at 6 a.m. on streaming devices and the 10 News mobile app.
The state is moving to discipline a Del Mar doctor accused of prowling in a former girlfriend's backyard. Team 10 is investigating why he's still being allowed to practice.
To feel unsafe on your own home, that's sad.
A vandal strikes across a Chula Vista neighborhood, and it appears that person had a specific target.
And November is Native American Heritage Month. We'll take you to the Sycuan Cultural Center, which showcases the Kumeyaay tribe's history.
In a wet afternoon for many, we're expecting more showers, thunderstorms, and flash flooding becoming widespread tomorrow. We'll be right back.
November is Native American Heritage Month, and here at 10 News, we are celebrating the Kumeyaay people.
They helped shape the Southern California region, and the Sycuan Cultural Center is preserving that culture, keeping it alive. At the Sycuan Visitor Center in El Cajon, you'll find pieces of history on display. Tools, clothing, baskets, even instruments, all tracing back to the Kumeyaay people.
We were very important in shaping this landscape. So we developed the landscape, and the landscape developed us. The challenge of getting to college.
Ethan Benegas teaches Kumeyaay history and is Kumeyaay himself. The Kumeyaay people live on 12 reservations in Southern California and 6 in Mexico. Their history is rooted deeply in the San Diego area.
We have old village sites all over. Old Town, where the first mission was an old village called Cosoy.
Benegas says at one point, the Kumeyaay, which were scattered from the desert to the mountains to the ocean, numbered between 30 and 50,000. But in the mid-1700s, that all changed.
A lot of us were decimated by, like most tribes, through smallpox initially, and then the waves of Spanish, Mexican, and Americans decimated our populations.
By the late 1800s, historians estimate the Kumeyaay population had dwindled to as low as 1,000. And even as numbers started to rebound, the language and music continued to fade. Benegas says at one point, traditional singers had all but disappeared. But there was a resurgence in the 1960s that continues today.
We have a whole generation learning these songs. That was almost, basically it was gone.
As for the language, there's still only about a dozen speakers left in the U.S. and a few dozen more in Mexico. But there is an effort underway to teach young people and keep it alive. Benegas says a turning point for many tribes was gaming, which provided an economic solution to the severe poverty many people experienced on the reservations.
Gaming was just another avenue. It was just another economic way to do what we've always done, which is take care of our people.
Today, Benegas and others say they're using education to keep their culture alive and hope during this Native American Heritage Month, San Diegans take time to remember the people who've called this land home for thousands of years. And if you'd like to learn more about the Kumeyaay people and their heritage, Cuyamaca College offers courses. You can find more information on our website, 10news.com.
An update on the vaping epidemic. Today, New York's Attorney General announced a lawsuit against a major vaping company. Attorney General Letitia James accused Juul Labs of taking a page from Big Tobacco to appeal to youth. Several states across the country, they are fighting to get the vaping epidemic under control. The CDC reports more than 40 people have been killed after using vaping products.
We are taking action by announcing a comprehensive lawsuit against Juul Labs Incorporated.
Researchers believe the chemical vitamin E acetate that's been used in some products is to blame. Last week, President Trump promised in a tweet a, quote, big paper on vaping. But so far, the White House has not made a statement.
The city of San Diego is now accepting permit-ready building plans for granny flats. Over the last few months, the city has tried to make granny flat construction more efficient by waiving fees and increasing the maximum size of the units to 1,200 square feet. The units have to be attached to existing single or multifamily properties. Homeowners can apply for a permit to build a granny flat by contacting the Development Services Department.
PG&E is warning people in the Bay Area about another potential power shutoff. More than 300,000 people, that is, in 25 counties would be affected. Dangerous winds are expected to pick up early tomorrow and last through Thursday night. The North Bay Mountains, they could see gusts of winds of up to 50 miles an hour.
Now, 10 News Pinpoint Weather, sponsored by Mozzie Heating, Air and Solar, voted Best Heating and Air Company 2 years in a row.
Well, it is definitely raining outside.
Ooh, man, what a day we had, huh?
Yeah, and those winds up north are actually related to the next feature that's going to be diving into San Diego and enhancing the chance for more widespread rain and flooding tomorrow. Right now in San Diego, it is 69 degrees, a pretty warm evening. In fact, feeling very tropical because tropical moisture has been surging into the county. Now, look at the difference as we go into tomorrow. The warmest period is basically now as we go into tomorrow morning, still in the 60s at 5 a.m. After that, it's going to be mostly in the 50s, so a much cooler day. In average, we've seen over 2 inches of rainfall already in Valley Center, Escondido, almost 1.5 inches. An inch and almost a quarter in San Marcos and Palomar Mountain, just over 1 inch of rainfall and 3/4 inch in La Jolla. So substantial rain already out of this tropical system to the south. As it continues spinning over the area, it's going to bring more thunderstorms, but most likely conditions will become lighter and then they're going to be picking back up as we go into tomorrow because the next feature will be diving, and this one brings colder air. So it's going to bring better dynamics for more showers and thunderstorms. Tonight, tropical moisture. Tomorrow, we actually get this cold system into the mix. Heavy rain and flooding will continue to be a threat. So of course, you want to know hour by hour how this could impact your day tomorrow. Be ready for rain any time of the day from 5 a.m. until the evening. There's going to be a very good chance of widespread rain with periods of heavy rain leading to flash flooding. So tonight you see actually becoming lighter at 11 and then cloudy skies with rain picking up overnight. You'll see some pockets of heavy rain for that morning commute through the day. A lot of it moving through at times, so it'll be lighter, but certainly heavy rainfall in the forecast, and eventually it could be mixing with some snow for our higher elevations as colder air begins to move into the county. By the end of the day tomorrow at 10:30, there's still rain in the forecast with a few leftover showers into Thursday. So accumulations, how much can we expect? Near the coast between 1 inch to 1.5 inches. That includes the valleys as well. And then inland communities and all the way back to the mountains, 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. I could go on and break this down even more, but here's the breakdown, at least for now. Expecting more thunderstorms tomorrow, periods of heavy rain, a much cooler day in the upper 50s, 60s inland. By the end of the week, it will be drier. So the day with the most rain will be tomorrow. A few leftover showers on Thursday. By Friday, getting better over the weekend. Sunny and dry.
All right. Thank you, Angelica. Let's get a check on that traffic. It has been a messy day on our roads. Here's Officer Tommy Strickland. Hello, Tommy.
Hey, Steve. Yes, it is. It's very wet out there, and it's a lot of traffic, a lot of brake lights. Let's take a live look. If you're traveling on that southbound 163, the southbound side is pretty much backed up from the 15 all the way headed into downtown. We also have a 3-car crash. It's going to be southbound 163, south of the 805. That's the 3 vehicles, and those vehicles are in the center divide. If you're traveling on that northbound 5 right at Del Mar, Carmel Mountain area, as you can see, that is stop and go. That's heavy for you all the way heading up to Carlsbad. And then we have a 2-car crash. It's going to be southbound 5 at Carmel Mountain Road off ramp in that area. I'm Officer Tommy Strickland with your 10 News Time Saver Traffic.
Looks messy. Thank you, Tommy. SeaWorld's new dive coaster is going to be named Emperor. The coaster will take riders more than 150 feet high before sending them into a 143-foot face-down drop. Face down? Face-down drop?
Steve loves those.
Yeah. Apparently it's got penguins too. It's going to go 60 miles an hour. Cars will be floorless, making the ride California's first floorless dive coaster. Or here's the penguin part. It's being called the Emperor in honor of the penguin species that is known for exceptional underwater diving. SeaWorld is aiming for it to open next summer. I kept looking at the video and seeing penguins and thinking, why are there penguins? What is he doing on the coaster? Did he pay a ticket to get in?
Look, see,
okay,
there
all right,
it goes.
now I get it. I understand it now. All clear.
Oh, dear.
A local nonprofit says the state is discriminating against their Catholic beliefs, why they can't open a shelter to help victims of sex trafficking.
Plus, what 2 prison guards are accused of doing instead of monitoring Jeffrey Epstein.
Skycam View, sponsored by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big bank banking, it's better.
A San Diego Catholic charity is suing the state of California. The group says they're being discriminated against because of their religious beliefs.
As our 10 News anchor Mary McKenzie explained, she says the charity says the state is preventing them from helping victims of sex trafficking.
The Children of the Immaculate Heart charity says it's being discriminated against by the state and that they're being blocked from opening this shelter to help underage victims of sex trafficking because of their Catholic beliefs. They don't believe in things like contraception and abortion.
CIH is spending $15,000 a month to keep this home going. It's a beautiful home, it's empty, and there's girls on the streets who could be saved from sex trafficking, but the state of California has decided that its political priorities take priority over saving these young girls.
The refuge is a home in a secret location that can house underage victims of sex trafficking. It's run by the San Diego charity Children of the Immaculate Heart, a short-term housing and therapeutic program that's ready to open and has been since 2017. They say the problem is state licensing officials who don't agree with their Catholic beliefs and are stonewalling their ability to get an operating license. CIH says that they would allow these girls to get birth control, for instance, or to attend an LGBTQ event, but that they don't explicitly support them, nor would they drive them to such an event. They say the state of California believes that's not good enough. So the Freedom of Conscience Defense Fund is filing a complaint today on their behalf, hoping to force the state to rule on that license and, as they say, stop holding up the process.
That was our Mary McKenzie reporting now. The state did respond to our story saying, quote, California's Department of Social Services has not reviewed this complaint and is unable to comment on pending litigation. The department enforces licensing of residential facilities in accordance with the law. A Del Mar doctor caught on camera prowling was told to stop practicing.
What the California Medical Board says he did instead that violated his probation.
Plus, the prisoner exchange bringing an American hostage home sparks hope for peace in Afghanistan.
And a major update on that Navy SEAL, Eddie Gallagher. We've got an update on his future and the potential conflict brewing that involves President Trump. I'm Derek Stahl in the Live Center with breaking news on the story of that Navy SEAL convicted of a war crime. The New York Times is reporting that Navy leaders are planning to kick Eddie Gallagher out of the SEALs. The move would put Navy leaders on a collision course with President Trump, who restored Gallagher's rank on Friday. You'll recall Gallagher was convicted of posing for a photo with the body of an ISIS captive. He was acquitted on more serious charges. Well, the New York Times is reporting that since Gallagher plans to retire soon anyway, removing his trident and kicking him out would be symbolic and it would have little practical effect. But it could set up a high-profile conflict between President Trump and the Navy Rear Admiral in charge of the SEALs, who wants to restore discipline and ethics. The New York Times is actually reporting that that Rear Admiral is ready to make this move even if it costs him his job. The formal announcement expected to come tomorrow. I'm Derek Stahl, 10 News.
2 prison guards are accused of shipping online instead of monitoring Jeffrey Epstein the night he died. Rather, that was shopping. The guards were supposed to stop by Epstein's cell every 30 minutes. Court records indicate they didn't check on him for 8 hours, then falsified their records. Epstein died while awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. A New York medical examiner said he hanged himself in a detention facility. Both guards turned themselves in and will face charges for falsifying records and conspiracy.
All right, now to a 10 News follow-up. The state is moving to discipline a Del Mar doctor accused of prowling in a former girlfriend's backyard.
The Medical Board of California says his license is still current, but he's on probation. Team 10 investigative reporter Jennifer Kastner first broke this story after getting alarming home security video. Jennifer.
Yes, his ex-girlfriend says this is Dr. Jeffrey Levin lurking by her window while she and her fiance were inside making dinner. It was captured on home security video earlier this year. The radiologist was charged with prowling, peeking, and violating a restraining order. He pleaded not guilty. Dr. Levin was already on probation with the medical board for other criminal activity. Now the board is accusing him of violating the terms of his probation by continuing to practice at an undisclosed location without monitoring after he was issued a cease practice order this May. This July, he underwent a psychiatric exam and was found to be unfit to safely practice medicine. He's believed to have narcissistic personality disorder and is at risk for making errors and disregarding rules. His criminal trial is scheduled for January. In the newsroom, Jennifer Kastner, 10 News.
Jennifer, thank you. The Trump administration is reversing its long-standing position on Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Today, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced that Jewish settlements are no longer considered a violation of international law. That position has been in place since 1978. Of course, Israel welcomed that position. However, Palestinians and the European Union, they have condemned the announcement. Tonight, 2 professors from the American University in Afghanistan held captive by terrorists for years are finally free.
Their release is said to be part of a prisoner swap that included 3 top Taliban figures. ABC's Andy Field explains the exchange.
In a highly coordinated operation, the hostages, American Kevin King and Australian Timothy Weeks, were turned over to U.S. Special Operations Forces, flown to Bagram Air Force Base. The colleagues exchanged for 3 senior Taliban leaders, including the son of the man who founded the brutal terrorist Haqqani network, responsible for killing thousands of Afghans and bombings in the Serena Hotel and the Indian Embassy. Terrorists kidnapped King and Weeks in Kabul more than 3 years ago, in August 2016. 5 months later, they appeared in a Taliban propaganda video pleading to be released.
But we've been here for a while, and we haven't heard anything.
In a speech announcing the deal last week, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said the men's health had deteriorated in Taliban custody. Weeks is 50, King is 63. King's family released a statement saying, in part, this has been a long and painful ordeal for our entire family, and his safe return has been our highest priority. We appreciate the support we have received. Talks between the Taliban and the United States to end their 18-year war collapsed after President Trump called off what he described as a planned meeting at Camp David around the September 11th anniversary. The Taliban called the prisoner exchange something that can help in the peace process. White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham says President Trump has no higher priority than the safety and security of American citizens. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
Today, the San Diego County Sheriff's Department discussed how it works with immigration and customs enforcement. The county held its second Truth Act Community Forum. The Truth Act became state law in 2016. It provides know your rights to every person taken into custody by local law enforcement. It also requires any local law enforcement agency that transfers people to ICE to hold at least one public forum about it every year.
We know that misreporting or discrepancies does not foster trust between the sheriff's office or the county and community members who fear and live in fear of deportation.
Locals say they believe the Sheriff's Department discloses people's immigration status to ICE and Border Patrol and violates their trust. They say this meeting is a step towards better transparency.
It has been a little over a year since the hazing death of an Ohio University freshman. A grand jury indicted 9 people in connection with the death of 19-year-old Colin Wyant. Wyant died after being hazed by the Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. He died of asphyxiation from ingesting nitrous oxide.
I wish they would have picked up the phone right away and called 911.
Well, some of the charges include hazing, involuntary manslaughter, and reckless homicide. Last month, Ohio University suspended all 15 Interfraternity Council fraternity chapters. The decision was made after new allegations of hazing were reported.
Neighbors in the South Bay shocked to find a trail of damage to their property.
You think it's safe, and now you realize it's not safe.
What the vandal targeted in the middle of the night.
Plus, 2 professors dubbed the real-life Breaking Bad. And now let's get a check on traffic. Here's Officer Tommy Strickland.
Well, it's still busy out there. At one point, I counted about 15 crashes in the county. If you're traveling on that northbound and southbound 15 right around Claremont Mesa Boulevard, both sides are stop and go. And then if you're heading northbound, that's going to be a tough drive for you. This is at the 56, and that's going to be a tough drive for you all the way up to Escondido. And then also the eastbound 8 is also slow. That's heavy traffic all the way into La Mesa. I'm Officer Tommy Strickland with your 10 News Time Saver Traffic.
An Arkansas University classroom turned into a scene from the hit show Breaking Bad. Police arrested professors Terry Bateman and Bradley Rowland for allegedly starting a meth lab in a classroom. This comes after people reported smelling an odor coming from an on-campus lab. Tests came back with a, quote, elevated presence of benzyl chloride. That's a substance linked to meth. Students at Henderson State University were shocked by the news, but commended the university for keeping the investigation under wraps.
If something would have went wrong, it could have been bad. Always kind of smelled weird, but I thought that was just because the chemicals in there.
Rowland admits to being a fan of Breaking Bad. The 2 professors face charges for manufacturing meth and the use of drug paraphernalia.
A jury is deciding the fate of a Florida man accused of murdering his ex-girlfriend and her 3 children. Prosecutors argued that he was trying to avoid jail time, but his defense says this was all gang-related. It's a case that Court TV is closely following. Here's Julie Graham.
Hello to you. I'm Julie Grant with Court TV, and we are in a verdict watch in the case of the state of Florida versus defendant Henry Segura. This is a quadruple homicide case happening in Tallahassee, Florida. This is both a death penalty case and a retrial. The 41-year-old is accused of murdering his ex-girlfriend, Brandy Peters, her twin daughters, and the couple's 3-year-old son. Prosecutors say that Segura's motivation was avoiding possible jail time for roughly $23,000 that he owed in back child support. But the defense says that the brutal killings happened because Brandy Peters was stealing from a Mexican cartel. Gang leader and prison inmate James Carlos Santos told the jury that he's the one who ordered the hit on Peters and her children. Today, both sides presented their closing arguments, and now Segura's fate is in the hands of the jury. As always, you can count on Court TV for gavel-to-gavel coverage. I'm Julie Grant. Now back to you in the studio.
And you can keep up with that trial and others on Channel 5.3 or on CourtTV.com.
Chula Vista neighbors searching for a brazen vandal with expensive targets.
That flat belongs to a Mercedes. That is a Maserati. A vandal strikes overnight in the South Bay, apparently targeting high-end vehicles.
10 News Mornings, connecting you to San Diego.
Kind of just be prepared for on and off rain during the entire day tomorrow.
They have already put out signs saying that you cannot park here.
They are planning on keeping it closed off for another 30 minutes to an hour.
Crews finished pouring concrete to form the new deck for the Trolley Freeway overcrossing.
They were able to open the freeway before the morning commute.
The minute you wake up, get caught up with 10 News. Weekdays at 4:30 a.m.
That it wasn't happening. I thought it was a joke.
Flat tires and keyed vehicles across a Chula Vista neighborhood.
As 10 News reporter Michael Chen found out, the vandal appears to be targeting high-end vehicles.
Along Via Escalante.
Very nice neighborhood, decent.
An indecent crime.
Bizarre.
Discovered Sunday morning.
It's upsetting.
In Jesse Javel's driveway.
His sister came out, saw this flat on his Mercedes SUV, then ran back into the house to tell him about it.
Javel came outside and saw the flat and much more.
And it goes all the way around, here.
Scratches across the body and tires of the Mercedes.
That it wasn't happening. I thought it was a joke. I was imagining.
They ran to the street where his sister's Mercedes was parked.
Her car was the same way. And the car behind, and the car behind, and the car behind.
One of those cars was Javel's other vehicle, a Maserati, also keyed all around the car, 2 of its tires sliced and flattened.
Sad. It's very sad that people will be willing, they're just for the heck of it.
Javel says a total of at least 6 other vehicles were targeted. He barely looked at the others.
They were nice, they were new.
But remembers them also being higher-end vehicles and apparently...
No. They don't have the right...
Shiny targets for a vandal.
Makes me realize that there's mean people. I want to go storage my car somewhere else.
On this day, those cars towed away. Next up, estimates. The damage expected to be in the thousands of dollars for each vehicle.
And it's not acceptable to be in a community that you think it's safe, and now you realize it's not safe.
Michael Chen, 10 News.
Javel says neighbors have also reported a rash of other recent crimes, including car break-ins. Anyone with information on the case is asked to call Chula Vista Police.
The Easy Fire in Simi Valley caused $500,000 in damage to the Ronald Reagan